All right, we're going to be talking about what we're going to be doing next, which is a fiction writing segment. So we'll go ahead and go into Google Classroom for today. Just as a reminder that tonight you have your scholarly blog post due to me if you haven't finished that yet. And then on Sunday, you've got your response to your peers. If you are in a situation where your peer has not, you don't have a blog link for that peer, or there isn't a post, just remember that in that you're not responsible for that. You can't help it if somebody hasn't done their work. So you just need to put in your paragraph that you tried to go, but they hadn't done it or whatever, okay? Okay, so we are looking at 10/30/2020 Introduction to Nanowrimo, which is our fiction writing unit. If you guys want to go ahead and pull this up so that you can see it, and then we're going to go over the PowerPoint together, and I'll tell you when to open certain documents. All right, so November is National Novel Writing Month, and it is held every year since 1999. And it's a challenge where people take on the goal to write 50,000 words in a month, which is a lot of words. We are not going to write 50,000 words, but that is the goal during the entire month of November. So hundreds of thousands of people participate in this challenge. There's also people who call it National Novel Writing Month, Nanowrimo, but that's not all it is. There's a lot of outreach. They have a lot of programs for student writers, and they go into schools, and they do year-round activities. Like they have a boot camp in summertime, which a lot of people use that as a chance to kind of revisit and revise what it is that they've written in November, or to plan for what they're planning on writing in November. And there's been a lot of people who have actually been really successful and published books out of this experience. So it's a really cool activity, but it's also a really great challenge because it kind of, you have this motivation because you know all these other people are doing it as well. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to have you guys go to the website nanowrimo.org, and you're going to sign up, and then you're going to follow me. So that's Nano, so National Novel, WRIMO.org. And then there will be an option for you to sign up. I'm already logged in. And then, so I'll leave this up here so that you can look for me, because up here at the very top, it says search for users. So I'm gonna have you guys go ahead and sign up, create an account. And you're 3 times more likely to finish this project. And for us, we're going to be writing 5,000 words in the next 3 weeks. So you're 3 times more likely if you have partners. Okay. So if you want to follow anybody in this class or in my 6th period class, I'm going to be doing the challenge along with you. So you will see my progress, and I'm holding myself to the same standards. I'm actually hoping to write at least 15,000 words. And you can sign up anytime in November, but you're supposed to sign up before. So that's why I'm making sure that you guys all are signed up today. It is Miss Hillary Cummings, MRS Hillary Cummings. And you'll see on their website, they have some tools like you can find friends, you can create a writing group, you can create your region. I was trying to get it to do that. It thinks I'm in Africa for some reason. And so we can see right here, there's 791 people that are signed up from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is kind of nice, like knowing that you've got friends. At least you'll know that the people who are in this with you together. All right, who is still in the process of signing up? See your hands, okay. You can't find me? You can't, okay. Let me. And then MRS, Hillary. Okay. When I search for myself, I come up. How many people have found me? How many people did come up? Anyone? Or is it not working? I think I can send you guys a link. The SIE, Kayla. See if you come up. Might just take it a little bit to populate. Okay, it's okay if you haven't followed me. The main thing is that you are signed up. If you search for my username, it should have come up. But if you haven't, then you can try searching for Cummings and see if that shows up. Let me see what happens when that happens. Here. There's a lot of Cummings, yeah. I'm the last one on the very bottom. So Jacob just searched for Cummings and it came up that way. I need to add a picture. I'm
That's an invitation. Don't press send invitation.
You can send an invitation so I can follow you. I'll put a picture, hold on. That might make me easier to find. All right, I'll come back and I got to make a smaller file size, but we won't get distracted with that. But okay. All right, so we've all signed up and now what we have to start thinking about is our concept. So what do you want to write about, which is, you know, a little bit of a challenge, right? So for this class, you have some options. You can write something academic, informative, something about something that you're interested in. So like if you don't want to write a piece of fiction, but you want to write a long, I mean, this is a long form piece. So let's say that you're like Jacob, you're really into cars, right? So you might want to write about cars, or you might want to write about fixing cars, or you might want to write something about that. Okay. Not saying that you have to, you might want to do something fictional, but if you're stuck and you don't know what you want to do fiction wise, then know that it doesn't have to be fiction. It could be a piece of creative nonfiction. So something that is real life, technically like What the Eyes Don't See is a piece of creative nonfiction because she writes it in a narrative format. You could write your own personal memoir. Maybe you want to write the story of your life. Maybe you had an interesting life so far and you want to write about that. Or you can come up with something completely original. Our goal is to write 5,000 words in the course of the next 3 weeks. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be polished. This is a rough draft. Okay. So it's an exercise. We're going to hold writers workshop throughout the process. That is when you're going to be graded on your content. Okay. So you will be asked specifically, we're going to have 2 different workshop dates. You're going to be asked specifically to pull something from your writing that you want to share and get feedback on. Okay. That will be the content that you'll be graded on. All right. So that will be the part that you'll want to take some time to really think, okay, I really like this one piece that I wrote and I really want to share that. Each day that we come to class, we're going to write. Okay, so the schedule is going to look a little bit something like this. So next week we have 2.5 hours in class that we can spend writing. I'm asking you guys to spend 2.5 hours outside of class writing. So that means it's a total of 5 hours a week of writing a week, and you've got to do 1,500 words. Okay, so if you think about that in 5 hours, then it's not really that many words that you have to write in each one of those segments, right? That's 350 words. And what you'll do is you'll submit to me at the end of it. So I'll make a Dropbox and you will submit to me what you have written so far. We'll go in at the start of the next week and we'll update our word count on Nanowrimo. The next week, we've got another 2.5 hours of writing time, and then you'll have another 2.5 hours that I'm asking you to do outside of week, and you'll have a word count of 1,500 words that's due to me. And then on the 11th, so we're going to be, have you guys heard about the new schedule yet? Yeah. Okay. So for those of you who haven't heard about the new schedule, then what's going to start happening is every Monday and Thursday are going to be odd days. Every Tuesdays and Fridays are going to be even days, and every Wednesday is going to be a skinny day. We're going to go to all. Okay. It is what it is.
Every Friday is going to be odd?
Every Friday is going to be an even day. Okay. So every Monday and Thursday odd, every Tuesday and Friday even. Okay. And then every Wednesday you'll go to all of your classes. That means that on the Wednesdays that we're here, you actually will be in here for a regular amount of class time so that you guys get an advantage that other classes don't get because you'll have extra time to work. But on those days, the first part of it for 30 minutes, about 30 minutes, we'll hold our writers workshop. Yes. It starts on the week of the 9th. Okay. And you'll get an email about that either today or Monday that will kind of break down what it looks like. But huh?
You don't even get to have an odd week.
No, there's no more odd weeks, no more even weeks.
I mean, like, but next week's supposed to be an odd week. We're out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So it's not even going to be an odd week.
I mean, don't say that word. Okay. It is what it is. We don't have any control over it. It's just, it's going to be fine. We're going to love it together, or we're going to hate it together, or we're going to do whatever we're going to do together. But on those days are workshop days. Okay. So we'll have 2 workshop days again. Remember, those are the days, and I'm going to be grading you on your content. Otherwise, I'm going to be grading you on meeting word count goals. Okay. And then at the end on the 20th, you will need to submit to me by that Saturday because grades are due to Bethel by Monday. So I have to have by Saturday, and that's 2,000 words. So here's how the grading scale in terms of words. So if you only turn in 500 words to me, then you're going to get a grade out of 125 points, and that's an F. If you write half what you're supposed to write, then you're going to get 50 points. That's an F. If you write 751 to 900, that's going to give you 75 points, which is a C. If you write 900 to 1150, then that is an 85. If you write 1150 to 1250, that's a 90. If you meet your word count, that's 100. Okay. Grading up based on two things. So you're going to get a classwork grade for your word count and assessment grade for your workshop and preparedness times. I'll be looking at your draft. I'll be making sure that you're actually typing words that go together and you're not just like typing and over and over and over again to reach word count. You're not just, putting invisible letters and then highlighting them and turning them white so that I won't see to make your word count. Okay. So I'm going to make sure that you complete the activity, but I'm not going to assess the overall quality of that work because I don't want us to be fixated on thinking that these 1,500 words have to be perfect. I want for you to think of them as a very rough draft because you're writing them in a very quick method. It's an exercise. It's not an opportunity to feel like you have to come in here and do something stellar every single time that you come to class. And it's about the writing process and building on skills that we've already been trying out through the course of the semester. What we're going to do with this work is that we're going to use it to inform, this kind of going to be our primer for literature class. So we're going to look at each other's work, we're going to talk about it, we're going to analyze it, and we're going to kind of get a baseline understanding of expectations for literature, okay? So that you guys don't kind of walk into that blind, because it's not like any other literature class that you've taken ever. So it's a little bit different. Also that class, the writing, it kind of shifts to where it's way more reading intensive and less writing intensive, but you need to feel comfortable writing about literature. So I think that one way that we can start to feel comfortable writing about literature is if we're writing about our own literature that we wrote, right? So we're going to start out with just some ideas. Okay. So these are some options, and these are developed by NaNoWriMo, and I really liked them, so that's why I borrowed them. And this first document you're going to go to is in your Google Classroom, and it's called NanoPrep 101. This is going to make a copy into your document, into your own Google Drive. So if you would go ahead and open this, it looks like this. Week 1 exercise, 4 ways to develop an idea. So it's effectively what we're kind of doing today is we're brainstorming, right? So one thing that we can do is we could borrow the plot from something else to kind of act as a springboard for our own plot. So I want for you to write a summary of 3 books or movies or TV shows or stories that you love, include important characters, major plot turns, and setting. So here's an example. A teenage girl lives in a dystopian world where the USA has been divided into 13 districts, and every year children are chosen from each district to fight to the death. The teenage girl volunteers to fight in place of her sister. She tries to survive while protesting against the evil capital and maybe falling in love. So that's Hunger Games, right? So think about something that you love. Think about something that you already like, a text that you're engaged with, okay? And I want for you to write 3 summaries in that little box. Now, I'm going to allow you to include what you write in these for your first week, so that you kind of have this as like, if you're really stuck, that first week is the hardest week, honestly. The first week and the last week, really. But the first week coming up with ideas can be really struggle. So if you want to spend a lot of time brainstorming and turn in those words as part of your word count, you're able to do that, okay? So let's write 3 summaries. Let's set a timer for 15 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes each summary. So if you need to go to IMDb, if you need to go to Wikipedia to read a summary of the text that you're writing, to then put it into your own words to get ideas, you can do that. Okay, questions before we break for this?
We have to write a summary about text. And what text am I supposed to use?
So 3 things that you really like, 3 stories, movies, books, TV shows that you really like. So you're going to kind of take that and put it into your own summary. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. All right. All right, for you at home, I'm going to give you guys 15 minutes. I'm going to pause this, so set your own timer so that you have that to do this activity. Okay. So even if you didn't get that finished, then we'll have some time on Wednesday that you can resume back to it if you wish to do so. All right, let's take a look at the next thing we're going to do. All right, then we're going to choose one of the summaries, and we're going to kind of play with it a little bit. We're going to move around some of the parts of it. So one thing that we can do, we can change some of the characters. We could change the setting. We could change some of the plot turns. We could change adjectives or verbs, anything else, and see where those kind of changes take you, and keep writing when you get expired. So here's an example. So teenage girl lives in the future where the oceans have risen and everyone lives on small islands. The water is controlled by pirates who demand a sacrifice each year to keep the island safe. The girl is chosen, but in a storm, she's rescued by a different kind of pirate ship, one made up of former would-be sacrifices who act as pirates against the pirates. And okay, so what you can do is you can kind of play around with it. So I have my summaries. They're of two of them are of books that I really liked. One of them was of a TV show. So the first thing is kind of coming into this and saying, all right, well, which one am I going to play with? Which one do I want to play with the most? So read back over your summaries and think, all right, which one of these do I want to change around? So after you kind of think of that one, I want for our goal right now is we're just going to change one of them. Okay. So I don't want you to change all of them right now unless you are feeling just super inspired. I'm going to give us 7 minutes. And I want us to change one of those summaries and change around some of the details about it on how you can kind of take that and make it your own. Maybe this is something that you even thought about while you were watching or reading or experiencing whatever this text was. You were like, gosh, I wish that what if this changed about it? So kind of play with it, have some fun, be creative, and change around the elements of just one of those summaries. So I'm going to set a timer for 7 minutes, and then we will come back to it. Okay, so hopefully you have some ideas there. And if you're not exactly done with what you were doing, but you do have some like bullet points or something, feel free to kind of jot those down so that you don't forget what your brilliance has going on. All right. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a little time to kind of borrow one of those characters. So we need to invent a history or a future for someone. Maybe you lost touch with those person after school, or a teacher that you had, a family member you've heard stories about, or just someone you've seen in photos or on the bus. So for example, this comes from the text, the Nanowrimo document is, I'd like to write a novel starring my great-grandmother someday, inspired by pictures that I've seen of her, because he'd never really heard anything about her. So who is a person that intrigues you? What was their childhood like? What did they dream of? What was their greatest desire? What obstacles did they face? What was their greatest triumph? Okay, so we've got our document here under borrow a character, and it has all those things that I just said on the slide. So I want for you to think about this is somebody that you know, something or somebody that you've seen a picture of, or even like just somebody that you wish that you did know. Okay, and we're going to take a few minutes and we're going to pretend that we know them. Okay, and we're going to give a little bit of background information that you kind of are just going to completely make up. Now, if you are not a person who are a person who struggles with making up, use somebody that you know. So use somebody that you do know really well. Maybe you have a really important grandmother. Maybe you want to write about your mother. Maybe you want to write about your best friend. Okay. So if you can't create somebody off of your head, then I want you to give me some of those narrative details about somebody that you do know. Okay. So we're going to take 8 minutes and we're going to borrow a character, okay? When you get done giving the description, I want you to go ahead and independently move on to the next part, which says, finally, since most novels aren't someone's entire life story, you have to find the story. What part of that imagined life has the most drama, the most ups and downs, a moment of adventure or possibility or danger when things change? Remember, you're inventing this, so you can completely come up with anything. But you can still use the same. If you have a really hard time, you're like, I'm just not that creative, Mrs. Cummings, right now, then you might know something that did happen that in this person's life that's crazy, that you want to have the freedom and the license to make that extra crazy, okay? So take 8 minutes, and I want for you to work on these 2 boxes, okay? All right, so another method that we could use if building a character doesn't work for you, so I've now tried 2 different techniques. And the purpose of all of this is so that you'll have lots of different options, right? So that you can explore different ideas and return back to these when we start writing. Is that we could take a second and borrow something from the world around us. So in your document, you've got the following description is to pick something that's going on in the world today. Imagine it from the perspective of the different people involved. So a story about a river flooding might include the single mother driving her 2 kids on a camping trip, the park ranger called in to help, the farmer who lives down the road. Feel free to use the basics of the news story for inspiration, but make up your own details. So change the place, the time, the specifics of the people, age, gender, identity, personality, okay? So what news stories have stuck with you? If you don't have a news story that stuck with you, then go visit some news stories, right? Go and look at some, and what I probably would look at is like public interest pieces, or, maybe you think about what just recently happened, like there was a really bad hurricane, right, that hit the Gulf. So it's also just been like a crazy hurricane season. I think that's like the 3rd hurricane to hit Louisiana this hurricane season. So you could imagine that, like, what would that be like to live in that situation? Okay. This will definitely be helpful for people who are like real world people who need real world events to write off of. So if you find that this is something that's easier for you to write and respond to, then that might be like the really great jumping off point for you. Okay. So what I want for you to find in the next 5 minutes is I just want you to find a news story, and I want for you to put the link to that news story inside of this document, and then write a few things down about it. What can you imagine out of it? What would be some interesting aspects of it? What stuck with you, so that you kind of have this to go back to when we start actually drafting and writing on Wednesday, okay? So in that box right below it, it asks you to explore this a little bit further, and I'm going to let you leave this blank for now. But if this ends up being something that you want to act as a springboard for your ideas, you can come back to it and use it, because it asks you what kind of people might be involved. What are their lives like? How do they end up in that situation? What will they have to do to get out of it? What might have happened years before, or what might happen years later? Because all of those things are the ways that we develop a plot, right? So like kind of asking those kinds of questions can help us. Now we're going to look at the 4th thing that we can do to generate ideas, and that is by using images. So we've heard that a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So here are some images, and I'm going to let you guys explore these. But like, for example, 31 haunting images of abandoned places that will give you goosebumps. So kind of looking at these places and thinking about what kind of story could I generate based on seeing the images, okay? So I want for you to take a few minutes just to look through them. And if one really kind of sits with you, like I'm looking at this picture from Nambia, and I have so many questions. Was it a dust storm or a sandstorm that came in and destroyed this home? Were people able to get out? All of the things that kind of you think about as you look through, or this floating forest that we see here in Australia. So take some time to just look through the images and see, do any of them spark a creative element in you that you would like to explore further, okay? And I'm gonna give you guys, let's say 6 minutes to look through the images. And then if you have one or two, to maybe either email that image to yourself or write down the name of the image, because you'll have these links inside of your box, okay? So if you found some of those images compelling, but you don't want to create a fictional story, but you want something to kind of, maybe you're more of a research person, or maybe a real fact person. If you wanted to just write what histories that you can find out about these places, you could do that for this project. Okay. So I don't want you to feel like you're limited to where you have to be creative. I want to encourage you to be creative. But if it's just something that is just very difficult for you, and you need something more concrete, real world, that kind of thing, then any of these places can be really great inspiration that you could take and just do some really practical research with. Or maybe there's something else that you're interested in research wise, and you're like, hey, I'd like to spend some time doing some extensive research on some variety of topics. If that's the case, then just talk to me about it, okay? Because I want for you to get the most use out of this time that you can. I do think that it's better to do something that's literature based, either fiction or creative nonfiction, only because that's the next step that we're going to move into. But if that is something that just feels really, really hard for you, because this isn't technically a creative writing class, it's a writing class, then you have some options, okay? Now I have a couple of different, 2 additional tools that I provided for you guys in your Google Documents, and these things are going to be really helpful next week. So one is not the 4 ways to, I have the wrong document on there. I'll have to upload that in just a second. But one actually is a plotting technique, which actually I have linked right here. These are methods that you can use next week when you're thinking about your plotting. It is helpful to explore. They are also located on the Nanowrimo website. If you go up here to where it says writer's resources, there's an option called the Nano Prep. And in there, there's a lot of different tools. Like technically, like this can be treated as an entire 1 month long course where you can kind of, develop your story ideas and create your complex characters and construct a detailed plot or outline. Okay. So these are all useful tools for you. And I do recommend that if you get in a point during the next couple of weeks where you get stuck, is to go over to one of these and just kind of start playing with them until the ideas start flowing again, because it's completely normal to get writer's block through this process, no matter what you decide that you're going to write about. But I have included in here, I'm going to change that. That should be the plotting document. But one document that is really helpful and what I encourage you to think about, it's not necessarily homework. It's on this slide as if you can do it as a homework, or you can launch the first start of the day when we start writing on Wednesday, to really take a second to develop your characters. Okay. So if you're writing creative nonfiction, if you're writing a memoir, okay, so if you're writing about yourself, or if you're creating a fictional world, this is a fantastic. So we think about our characters. Characters can be real people, right? These are the things that we want to know about our characters and we want to write about our characters. So what's their name? How old are they? What do they look like? Like how tall are they? What's their eye color? Okay. So these are, if you're creating these people out of your head, you're going to have this so that you can reference it. I can't tell you how many times that I've been writing fiction and like my person's eye color will change like halfway through because I forgot what color eyes I gave them, right? So like this is a really great handy kind of plotting tool, world development tool for you to use. It's also the more time that you can spend in this first week that we work on this together, generating kind of your construction of your world and your characters and the ideas, the easier the 2 weeks after that will be, okay? Because you can write 1,500 words of planning and that can count for the week, okay? It doesn't have to be that your story, your finished story has to be 5,000 words. It might be, it's 3,000 words and you did 1,500 words of pre-planning and then you did 500 words of just reflection at the end of it, okay? So the overall goal is that we're writing 5,000 words, but you don't have to think that my whole story has to be 5,000 words. You might do some other activities that kind of help you get there. And if you're struggling, I'll help you with that, okay? So for our last little bit of class, we have like 4 minutes left or something. I just want for you to take at the end of that document on your prep document is just to make a couple of notes to yourself. What are some things that you want to take away from this that you want to remember? What are some generation of ideas? And then over the next couple of days, just kind of be paying attention to the world around you. What things could you be using it can inspire you to write about, okay? Maybe you want to write a family history that you want to give to your family on Thanksgiving. Maybe you want to do something that's completely creative. You want to make a completely crazy world that's all your own. You can do whatever you want, okay? So sometimes freedom when it comes to a project can be really exhilarating and really fun, but sometimes it can feel like, oh no, I don't know what to do. So I want you to have lots of different options of different things that you can pull from and explore. What questions do we have before we do that little last bit? Anything right now? How are we feeling? Okay? A little overwhelmed? Or feeling okay? Like it's a manageable overwhelm? Not sure yet? It's okay. All right, take a few minutes to write yourself some notes.